Hi, I'm Mitchell.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And this is Board Game Battle. Our debate this week is
Best Space Game.
For my champion, I've chosen Zaya. Zaya.
And for my champion, I've chose Darkly.
Always in front of my box. Look at this. There's a hole in this box. Get it out. Zaya is a 3 to 5 player sandbox designed by Cody Miller and published by Far Off Games. In it, players take on the role of a lowly but hopeful captain of a small starship. They'll explore the galaxy and discover new sectors, complete missions, and fight against each other in combat. Along the way, players will vie for titles and wealth, but most importantly, fame. Only the most creative, adaptive, and risk-taking captains will be able to surpass all the others, but only one will be able to surmount mortality by becoming a legend. My first pro is in the fact that it allows you to control the game length. One of the primary critiques I hear about this game is that it takes a while to play. I get that argument, but there is a built-in way to shorten the game. It comes with a marker that allows players to choose before starting how many points they want to play to. So those who make that counter-argument can go somewhere with themselves.
And regardless, Mitchell never lets us change the game length, and the game feels long and drawn out either way.
I don't let you change the game length because I want as much of this game as possible. And also, if you want to play a shorter game, go out and buy your own copy. My next pro is in the fact that you have the choice between various ships. Each player begins by choosing a vessel to call their own. Not only are they choosing a unique custom mini to represent them on the board, but more importantly, they're also choosing a corresponding player map. This is a super important choice because each ship has a unique hold size, shape, base movement value, and ability. This asymmetry is a crucial part of the game. Players can purchase various outfits to upgrade their ship, whether to add engines for additional movement, shields, or blasters. Fitting these outfits into the hold is like a game of Tetris. Your ability to upgrade your ship is limited only by your credits and how much you can physically fit onto the grid. At the beginning of the game, you won't have much room, but as you purchase better ships, your hold size will drastically increase and create vastly greater opportunities for customization.
Now, I think it's cool that there's various ships, but some of the ships are way overpowered compared to others, and I think it makes the game a little bit unfair.
Now, I do agree that some of them are OP, however, that incentivizes you to get the money soon enough in the game to buy those ships, and it rewards you for being out ahead. Anyway, my next pro is the fact that there are lots of risky options. This is a dice rolling game, and the better outfits you purchase, the higher sided dice you roll. This makes a huge difference. For example, if I'm attacking another player with a d6, I'll do a lot less raw damage than if I'm rolling a d20. So, although this does come with some randomness, spending your money correctly can give you significant advantages in terms of the rolls. And it's not just during combat. For example, players can push their luck by flying through asteroids or planetary shields, and they base their ability to pass through safely on nothing more than a dice roll. This leads to many moments of high intensity throughout play.
Now, I am a man of risk, but I believe that this game's risk to reward ratio is a little bit flawed in certain aspects. For example, whenever you're trying to cross a planetary border, you have a 50-50 chance of making it through, and then you can even make it through and still get a bounty on your head.
Just go through the gate. Or roll better, Nick. Come on. Anyway, my next pro is in exploration. Pilots can stop their movement and spend energy to scan safely before diving into a new sector, or they can blind jump and potentially jump into the sun or dangerous territory. This could cause them to crash, perhaps having negative consequences such as death. This adds another layer to the previously mentioned risk versus reward system and also allows for a unique map every game. You know I love the word because I say it every video, replayability.
While I like this exploring aspect, there are some flaws to it. One being that there's so many tiles. And it does add to its replayability, but if we're being honest here, who wants to play this game again?
Whoa! Back off!
With there being so many tiles, it makes certain missions hard to complete. And it makes the game board huge if you explore all of them, and I don't know if you're going to fit that on your table.
I call bull on both of these. First of all, we've played this game several times on my table and had all the tiles out, and it fit just fine. Secondly, the whole thing about having to find planets to complete missions, that's part of the thematics of the game. If you have to deliver goods to a certain planet and you don't know where that is and you have to find it, that's like real life. That's like space, man. Whatever. Moving on. The next pro that I really like are the bounties. Killing legal ships, bypassing planetary gates, and visiting outlaw planets bring you rewards, but also put a bounty on your head that both players and NPCs can claim if they kill you. This adds even more of the whole fun risk versus reward, and it also encourages you to buy a big, new, beautiful ship to get rid of your bounty.
I actually have no argument for this one. Bounties is my favorite part of the game.
That's right. My last pro is the fame track. The rulebook lists 9 different ways to earn fame, or victory points, making it a true sandbox game. Pilots can earn fame by exploring, completing missions, destroying other ships, selling resources, earning enough credits, helping other stranded players, completing global objectives, or by rolling an at 20. I could be a lowly merchant trading resources the whole game, or a predatory hunter. Either way is a viable path to victory. Or I could do both. The possibilities are endless.
While the amount of ways to gain victory points in this game seems great on paper, that's definitely not the case. Once one player is ahead in this game, it's basically impossible to catch up, because there's no catch-up mechanic.
Yes, there is, and it has to do with the twofold nature of the ship tiers. So as you get money, you can buy better ships, Tier 2 and Tier 3. That instantly puts a target on your back, because when other players destroy Tier 2 and 3 ships, they get more victory points than they do whenever they destroy Tier 1 ships. Also, if you have a Tier 2 or Tier 3 ship and it gets destroyed, you begin losing turns, and that doesn't happen when you have a Tier 1 ship. That, my friend, is a catch-up mechanic. I'm done with Zaya. Tell us a little bit about Dark Moon.
Finally. Dark Moon is a 3 to 7 player cooperative game from Stronghold Games designed by Evan Derrick. In it, the players take on roles of astronauts on a mission to gather plutonium when an unexpected turn of events happens. An infection breaks loose amongst some of the crewmates. This infection makes those crewmates want to kill other players while also sabotaging the ship. It's the uninfected's job to make it safely and unharmed to the drop-off location while also figuring out who the infected are. And that leads me to my first point. Asymmetry. Each player is assigned a different character at the start, which gives them a unique special ability that no one else has. This allows for varied strategy that generates high replayability.
Although you know I love replayability and asymmetry, the asymmetric powers in this game are mostly irrelevant. They're very similar to each other and they don't affect the game a lot, and I usually literally don't care who I get because they have that little impact on the game.
Well, going on to my next point. Secret roles. In many ways, Dark Moon is like Among Us, though it came around first. However, Dark Moon is a lot more in depth. All tasks are team-based and most require players to collectively achieve a certain value in dice rolls. However, these rolls are done behind the screen, allowing for the infected to cause problems without always drawing scrutiny. At the same time, the custom dice have more negative than positive sides, casting down on even the most steadfast of the uninfected. Add to this the fact that all players can choose ahead of time to either participate in the task or sit out to gain more dice, and you've got a depth of strategy that makes for some nerve-wracking rolls that allow all players, even the infected, a chance to have a say in the success or failure of a task.
While I resent the reference to Among Us, it is true, which kind of is a con in my opinion. You know that's so toxic. But anyway, I do really like the secret rules and the shield and all that. It's the best part of the game, so no counter for me. What's next?
My next point is the anonymous infected. Dark Moon is not like any other deception game I've played. For starters, infected do not know who the other infected are. While some might see this as unfair, I believe this gives the game an extra layer of strategy. If the infected knew who their partners were, it would be too easy for them to win the game. Plus, this allows for one of my favorite mechanics of the game, which is that the infected can refill themselves and gain enhanced player abilities to help them win the game. When this happens, everyone is surprised, including their fellow infected players.
So because most sides of the dice have negative faces, it actually makes it fairly easy for the infected to win, in my opinion, because even the uninfected are contributing to their exploits. And so they really need this nerf of not knowing who the other infected are. But in my opinion, it may not be a big enough nerf, because in our plays, I feel like the infected win way more than they lose.
And I have a counter to that counter. In the rulebook, there's a variant that allows the infected to have a harder time at winning.
A variant is not the same as base game. What's your next pro?
My next pro is freedom of choice. At the beginning of the game, the commander is randomly chosen. One of his jobs is to choose the events that require completion in order for the uninfected to win. The beauty in this is that it is very possible for the commander to be infected, and therefore choose harder events. This sows distrust and adds to immersion, but the other players have some say as well. The tasks that lead up to completing each event are chosen in a similar fashion by each of the crewmates, allowing infected players to choose harder tasks and uninfected to choose easier ones. However, no one ever sees which cards weren't chosen, so it allows for the infected to lie and imply there's a harder event in the discard pile.
So I do like the choosing of the different events, and I think that's a cool part of the game, but regarding the commander, this really doesn't affect the game that much. It's kind of just another thing you have to do during setup, and it's just kind of a little irrelevant to me. But minor quip. What's next?
My next point is quarantine. If the crew ever believes that someone's actions are a little too fishy, they can call a vote on that person to potentially quarantine them. This is done by secretly submitting variously colored dice to indicate a yay or nay vote. If quarantined, players are limited to only 2 dice, which means that if they are infected, they are less able to cause tasks to fail. More importantly, however, it negates the bonus that infected players trigger when revealing themselves. At any time, the crew can vote again to let the quarantined player out of seclusion. This is a really cool mechanic, but one that also risks limiting one of their own in the case that they have pinned the deed on the wrong crew member.
The whole quarantine thing is cool, but come on, man. Global pandemic. Why are we going to be bringing that up again? All right. Anyway, no, but seriously, we almost always pass on this in our plays because it eats up your dice, which you want to have for those event rolls. So is it really that important if we're constantly skipping it? Plus, on the rare occasion that we do it, if you're uninfected and you get quarantined, it really sucks because it limits your hand of dice. Anyway, that's your last pro, right?
Yeah.
So it's time for some positivity to conclude this. We're going to say what our favorite thing is about each other's game. For Dark Moon, I think it's a really nice, unique twist on the whole imposter and hidden dice roll mechanics. It also has something unique that I don't think I've seen in other imposter games where the infected can out themselves to get stronger powers, which is really cool. So, what do you like most about Zaya?
Well, like I said earlier, my favorite thing about Zaya is the bounty aspect. It gives players like me a reward for ruining other players' games.
That's the end of our discussion, all right? Sorry, Nick is always trying to mess up other people's games. That's the end of our discussion. It's okay if you haven't played these games, but if you have, that's fine too. Talk about your plays, maybe talk about what we said in the comments, and ultimately vote. In a week, Nick will be back. We'll announce your winner and read your comments. With that being said, I'm Mitchell.
And I'm Nick.
And this is
Board Game Battles.